Hello, everyone. I wish I could fit you all on my screen so I could see all your pretty faces. So we're officially gonna start A Place of Our Own, the Artist Talk right now. And thank you so much for coming. I didn't know I was gonna get teary. I'm all teary. So thank you for supporting us this way. Just so you know, we are recording this for people who couldn't make it today at this time. We are being watched all over the world, which is so exciting. And so if you don't want to be recorded, you can turn off your video stream. So we'll just see your name and just a blank box. And if you don't understand it, I'm not sure what to do, but there's a little video camera, the bottom left of your screen, and you can stop the video portion if you don't want to be in the recording. So first of all, again, welcome to this afternoon. And we are hoping to bring you an inspiring and uplifting afternoon or evening, no matter where you are, of new ways that creative people think in the world to inspire you. And with all the insanity that's been going on and all the inconvenience and the disruption of our everyday lives, we're here to remind you that you can still make magic in all of it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of, we have 7 artists today. Thank you for being part of their journey, because you really are the 4th phase of the journey. So let's begin. What I'm gonna do, so I'm Cynthia Tom, a San Francisco-based artist, 30 years, and I'm the founder and director of A Place of Our Own. And it's just been a life path for me. So thank you again for sharing this space with us. So what I'm going to do right now is tell you a little bit about the program, give you the information of how we're being supported right now, just to thank our supporters. And then we are going to go into having the artists share their vision. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Place, because they just went on what is now an 8-month journey. It was supposed to only be a 6-month journey ending in an exhibition and an artist talk. Now we're at 8 months because of changing circumstances. So I'm going to tell you a little about the journey they've been on to give you context, and then they are going to share about their journey and their art pieces in progress and finished. And then at the end, we are actually going to have substantial time to have you make comments or ask questions or talk to the artists themselves if you're on Zoom. And if you're watching on YouTube Live, you're welcome to put things in the comments section, and we're trying to incorporate that as well, because we feel that your experience is just as important as ours. So with that, Diana, could you start first slide?
Cynthia, we also need to mention that we're recording this session today. Yes. So if anyone is uncomfortable with that, do what you need to do, but just letting everybody know that this is being recorded.
Yeah, you can turn off your videos if you don't want to be seen. So the first slide is something that I encourage everyone to do whenever they have a gathering, and that is to honor native land. This is done all over the world, and we're trying to get it done more often in the US, to acknowledge the people that were originally here and are still here. Most often they're not getting recognized by the United States government, so we want to recognize them. And at least in Northern California, there's more than I'm saying, but what I have in front of us is Miwok, Ohlone, and the Yokuts in Northern California and Central California. Lumbee, North Carolina, because one of our participants, Janet King, is of the Lumbee Nation. And then the Taino people out of Puerto Rico, because one of our staff, our beloved staff, Cris Matos, is Taino. He's from Puerto Rico. And to prevent their erasure, we always suggest please speaking their names. Janet told us this is healing work. And then our point is to counter the Columbus doctrine of discovery. Nobody discovered this place. People were already here. And to take it upon yourself to learn more about the people that are still here. They're still here. And the colonization is horribly ongoing for all these people, including Puerto Rico. Next slide. And the reason we tied Place just synchronistically ties into this, because in Place, we realized that we're aiming to break the legacy of this long-term colonization fear, extreme discrimination, and forced migration, we're using the arts to uncover and acknowledge our own truths, to get it out of our own body. And once we heal, we can help other people and hopefully start to change the systems that are keeping these people oppressed. And we own that we are ancestral pattern shifters, and you probably are too. If you've ever upset your family regularly, if you've ever upturned the apple cart, if you're ever someone who asks questions that no one else is asking, you might want to own the fact that you're an ancestral pattern shifter, and very necessary. Next slide. So the one thing I would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the people that understand what we're doing is still relatively novel and unique and outside of the box. These are people that and organizations that are getting that what we're doing has deep roots, and that what we're doing, the healing is an act of protest, really. So I thank the visionaries at San Francisco Arts Commission, California Arts Council, Zellerbach, Pacific Asian American Bay Area Coalition, and Do a Little. And our community partners that have been visionary and going above and beyond the call of duty: Deborah Santana, Avacha, our beloved Avacha from KPFA and KPOO, Ravi Chandra, who, besides being a psychiatrist and mental health expert, writes journals for Center for Asian American Media and Psychology Today, and he's written articles on what we're doing. Catherine and Antonio Salazar, Irene and Sherry from AWA, which is Asian American Women Artists Association. They help me with all things budget and help manage our grants. They're our fiscal sponsor. And then Boys and Girls Club through Pat Zamora. They've been partners, and we've been able to bring in and work with either staff or their mothers and volunteers. So next slide. So one thing I wanted to do that a lot of women of color, and I'm sure other people do, we don't acknowledge ourselves enough. And I grew up in a family where they wanted you to keep your head down, don't draw attention to yourself. And this is kind of a colonizing thing where you just push down your importance by not telling people all the things that you're proud of being. So I just wanted to acknowledge the people helping us today, including myself. So again, I'm the founder and director. I've been around for 30 plus years making art. I've pretty much been making art my whole life, but officially 30. Ahran Lee, who is our co-host and has been helping me, came to place in 2018. She's an alumni who went on to now help me with curation, and she's a full-on facilitator. Cris Matos, my partner who you saw sitting next to me, he's been my assistant curator for over 10 years, an art instructor who helps the artists, Spanish wordsmith, photographer, and he's a singer-songwriter. Natalie, so those were the three that have been running the program this year. And then we've had help from Natalie Sacramento, who was a 2014 Place alumni, and she's come in to help regularly as a facilitator and evaluation advisor. And then Diana Lee, who has just volunteered her efforts today as a tech support person. She's a visual and video artist and arts organizer. And arts organizer. I appreciate your patience with this, but it's important for us to learn to acknowledge each other and ourselves. So please acknowledge yourself today for something you've done. Next slide. So the schedule today, right now we're at the 1 o'clock where I'm just welcoming you, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Place so you understand what the women have walked through, and they have walked through fire this year. Then we're going to have the artists present, and then we're going to take a break. And then part 2, we encourage you to stick around, have a cup of tea, you could sit there and eat if you want. And again, we invite you to chat with the artists if you're on Zoom, and if you're on YouTube Live, you just come in with the comments and we'll try to bring those up, feed those up as well. Next slide. So one thing we always do with Place is we work with meditation to start with. So what I'm going to do is just take a minute and ask you guys to take a deep breath. And I'm going to ask you to just kind of breathe in this moment that you're with us. and breathe in the realization that you're here for a reason. You're here to hear something. Something's going to spark an idea in you. And when you breathe out, I want you to breathe out what's happening to our nation, what's happening to the world, and just let that go for right now, because in this space that is sacred, we hold it sacred, you don't have to have that energy with you. So I'm gonna hit a chime 3 times, and when you're comfortable, close your eyes. So again, take a deep breath in of the sacred space you're in right now, and breathe out all the negative energy and everything that's been going on for the last, well, for over a few years now. But so everybody take a deep breath in together. And then let go of the energy you don't have to hold on to right now. You can always pick it up later, but right now, just let it go out. Another deep breath in. And again, let go more and more of the energy you don't need right now. And then if you're comfortable, close your eyes and take another deep breath in. And have a sense of being part of a collective community that is in this space right now, and that we're synchronistically here on purpose together. And that you're here to hear these stories from these wonderful women. Deep breath in. And then just practice letting go as you blow out all the things that don't belong to you, all the things you're worried about, they're just not yours, not right now. And feel the seat you're in, and start to see roots grow from your body, through your legs and your hips, your knees, your feet, down through Mother Earth. Just watch them growing. And now when you take a deep breath in, you breathe in the energy in our space right now. But when you breathe out, let all the negative stuff left in your body go down through Mother Earth, through the roots. And for her, it's like compost. For you, it's poison. For her, it's compost. Just let it go. One more deep breath. And again, blow out and allow everything to go down through the roots. And feel what it feels like to have a sense of peace just right at this moment, and the stillness right at this moment. Okay, so come back into the room with us and begin to open your eyes. Okay. Okay, so thank you guys for holding that space for me. Oh, okay. Okay. So go ahead, Diana, you can put up the next slide. Can you go look some more? So here's the place workshop in a nutshell. We generally always have a potluck to start. Eating is very much part of an Asian culture. I have a feeling it's part of most cultures. And we always eat. So if you want to eat while you're watching us, it's okay right now. We also use intuitive art making projects that get a thought process going. We use visual meditation, kind of like you and I just did right now. And we do a lot of group sharing because we believe it's important to get your stories out of your body and allow other people to take them in and to listen. Next slide. So there's different versions of a place of our own, or different versions of place. This particular place of our own, the 6-month semester version, it's broken into 4 phases. And it happens over 6 months, and it's kind of like building a house. So one happens on top of the other. The first phase, which is the most exposing phase, is called the Hungry Ghost, exploring your hungry ghost. And hungry ghost is a broad Asian term that speaks to ancestors or ghosts that wander the earth with insatiable longing, but we're using it for chronic heartache, those people, places, and things that cause you chronic heartache. And in phase 1, we put them on the table, we name them, we share them with each other, we speak them. And then for phase 2, we move on and use releasing hungry ghosts. We actually use art projects specifically aimed at releasing all these beliefs that you've had all these years. And just seeds, like you may not get it right away, and it takes time, but moving towards forgiveness, self-love, and acceptance is the goal. Then we move on to phase 3, claiming my place. And that's where you work with our art instructors, ourselves, to create art out of found objects that you find laying around your house or wherever. And that turns on your intuition, helps you practice using it, creates wisdom, helps you gain your wisdom, and creates self-agency, practicing making decisions. And then phase 4 is proclaiming my place, which is an exhibition and the artist talk. And we didn't have an exhibition this time, but that's okay. We got an artist talk that's going out international. And that's where these artists put their stake in the ground. They make their stories public. Next slide. So phase 1, exploring your hungry ghosts, naming our chronic heartaches. Next slide. So one of the things we do, I'm just going to give you little snippets of the art projects. One about beliefs that hold you back, actually naming things that are holding you back. We use rocks, and I don't want to tell you too much about it, but they have to carry them around with them. So you physically begin to feel what it tangibly feels like to carry around all these beliefs you've had all these years. Next slide. And probably the crux of our program is this. We have you create a family map, and then we have you map in patterns of dysfunction in the family. So you begin to see on paper where things went wrong. Next slide. So we actually have you name things like addiction, depression, silencing, violence, greed, and map those out. Next slide. And your maps can look totally different from each other. We never make you do something one way. We only give suggestions. And these are Zamora and Reyna Daudian's. Next slide. And then we have you share them in a small group. We never meet with more than 10 to 12 women in this particular version of A Place of Our Own, but you actually let the stories out, and you find out that other women have the same stories, very similar. It doesn't matter what your country of origin is. And you start to not feel so isolated and alone, which builds in compassion, forgiveness of yourself and others, and self-acceptance. Next slide. So the other thing we do, we try to teach the real basics for the chakras. And the reason we do that is because this journey is very triggering. And what happens is you learn to feel where the trigger is in your body, and you're able to start talking to it and what's causing it. So we actually have these 5x7 flashcards where you create something to go with each chakra. So for this one, this green one is my heart chakra, where I want to create abundance in my life. And I don't mean getting lots of money. I mean that I want to feel like I am loved and cared for by the universe. And then the back, this card is what's on the back. This is Reyna's card, I think, for her third chakra, her power chakra. And she writes down things that resonate, that she wants to remember about this chakra. So it's a quick reference guide for everybody. Next slide. So phase 2, we go to releasing the hungry ghosts, where we start doing things to release that pain that we just identified. We learn to build our intuition, we learn forgiveness, and to practice self-acceptance. Diana, can you turn off the chat and move to the next slide? Thanks. So one of the projects we do is called Love Letters to Myself, and it sounds cute, but is incredibly difficult for a lot of people to do. It's creating a collage, next slide, where you write kind things to your little self. So it's kind of a re-parenting of yourself. And of course, everybody can do it their own way. This is Janet's piece where she ingeniously made something so she can exchange in and out if she comes up with new ideas of things she wished her mother said or just wished an adult said in your life. And the one on the right is Pos, where she actually broke the substrate and made it into a freestanding piece. So you can really use your creativity here. Next slide. So phase 3 after that is claiming my place, where we start actually creating a piece that's going to go in the exhibition with found objects. And the reason we use found objects is anybody can participate. You do not have to be an artist to do this. And you do not have to have had any experience to do this. We're used to working with artists and non-artists alike. And our whole point is turning on your intuition, claiming your wisdom, and then gaining and practicing self-agency versus shame. A lot of times we don't realize all that shame we feel, all the self-doubt we feel comes from preconditioning and from colonizers and oppressors from way back in our family's history. Next slide. So the fun part of this with the found objects, I'm using Irene Wabawa, and you can't see her name, I did credit her. She's the perfect example of a found object artist. Somebody gave her like 100 baby jars, and she decided to turn them into art. And what you're seeing is the baby jar with just a cotton ball. And then this little person is a train person that you get at a hobby store. They're train people. So then the picture on the right with the glass, that's broken car glass. So if your car's ever been vandalized or broken into, for people like me, I get excited. Insurance will take care of the window, but you can save the glass. It's beautiful and we can use it. And Irene's here putting it into a little house she made. But it gives you, again, access to your intuition, because you start looking at things differently and you pick up things that you like just because you like them. And you practice self-agency by picking them up. Next slide. So this is the part, hopefully when the pandemic's gone, we can do, we had tried to do this online, it was very difficult. But Cris and I have been doing found object art for over 30 years. I've been doing it since birth because my parents, that's how we wrote. We didn't have money, so we made stuff from things we found around the house. But we know how to collectively, Ahran, myself, and Cris, we know how to glue anything to anything or attach anything to anything. So the students come with found objects. We have a lot. They put them together, but all in aid of answering the question, if you had a place of your own, what would it be? And that is something that I think people should continuously ask themselves over and over again. And actually, place started with this in 2009. I wrote this as a curatorial question for the Dian Museum residency. And actually the woman who gave us the residency is online right now, Renee. Hi, Renee Baldaki. But she was part of this starting in 2009. But we asked the artists, what does it look like? What does this space feel like, sound like? Who gets to visit there and what happens there? And that's all self-agency, to think about those things. And if you can remember this, when you hear the artist talk, you will see this thread running through all of it, because they had to focus on this for months. And Ahran and I asked them this ad nauseum, because this is where you find out what you want and what you deserve. So next slide. So finally, phase 4 is where they put their stake in the ground and they go from being internal to looking outward externally and sharing it publicly. And it can be very scary, but by that time, you know that you're supposed to be sharing this information. So we're missing the exhibition this year, and we will do it eventually. I'll look for it. And the artist talk is what you are part of right now. And the artist talk is more than just you listening to them sharing their stories. It's you being a witness to their sharing, but the reactions that you have, the responses that you feel are part of the whole project. So you're not just a passive person there, you are, you're very much part of this whole experience. So next slide. So what we have right now is I'm presenting the artist talk, and I want to introduce you to Ahran, who's gonna host and introduce you to each one of the artists. So thank you very much that was it in a nutshell. So Ahran, would you like to take the screen now?
Of course, my pleasure. Hi everyone, again, my name is Ahran Lee. I am assisting Cynthia Tom today in hosting duties. I am a co-facilitator and also a co-curator with Cynthia Tom for Place 2020. So thank you everybody for showing up for our community and our sisters today. Before we jump into the artist talk, I'm just gonna shake off some nerve that I have and just get into my body and be present and grounded in this space. I welcome you all to do so yourselves. So what I'm going to do is each artist will present their talk. Please save your comments and questions for the cup of tea that we have after the artist talk. So that's basically going to be a Q&A where you get to interact and engage with the artist. So please hold your comments and questions for that time. And for those of you who are out on YouTube Live, hello, thank you for showing up for us. If you have comments, please feel free to type it into the chat box. It should be on the right side of the YouTube screen. And for those of you who can't make it today, we are going to upload this video on YouTube Live sometime next week. So if anyone is missing or if you have to leave for whatever reason, that's okay. You're going to be able to see the recorded version on YouTube next week. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to mute everyone's mics so that the artist can regale us with their artist talk so there's no distractions for the artist. And if you have to move around, feel free to do so. You can turn off your videos if that's more comfortable for you for the artist talk. And please come back when you can. And we're going to now start the artist talk. And the first artist we have today is Katie Quan. She joined us for the 2020 residency. She's a native of San Francisco, and she's a third-generation Chinese American. She is the creator of Generation, an illustration-based web series. She currently teaches at City College of San Francisco and San Francisco State University, and that is a very truncated version of her resume. Katie does everything and all the things. We're really, really proud of her. And without further ado, let's have Katie Quan take the stage, girlfriend.
Thank you, Ahran, for that really, really nice introduction. I'm super excited to be here. I'm also kind of nervous all of a sudden, but I'm really thankful for Cynthia and Ahran and everyone else who have really made this space super, super special and exciting and ultimately very, very healing. At this time, grief has been sort of a running theme for this past year, especially for myself. And we see it reminded consistently every day, especially with COVID happening. But through my own self-exploration, I see and I find myself discovering and challenging sort of everything that I've been taught, all the people that have been part of these, part of my own upbringing, and all my own memories that I do carry along. I find myself being highly sensitive towards anything that has to do with old pictures, and old memories. And with this, it comes with a lot of longing, anguish, concern, and of course, overthinking of just past selves, really. And so when I do revisit all of these emotions and triggers, it comes into a cycle. And I think I'm starting to find peace within that. And with that peace, I find new life, really. And before I guess I keep on going, I do want to acknowledge that I think my family is watching on YouTube Live. So hi family, and I'm excited to have you along. This is their first time hearing this, and so it will be interesting to see sort of what they say as well. So I'd like to read my personal statement. It is called A Love Letter to Camp Orange. My gongong passed away last year. A few months after, my papa sold the house. 2434 East Valley Glen Lane. My papa and gongong lived there for over 50 years. My mom and aunties grew up there. My cousins and I grew up there. And like a magic trick, first it was there, and then it was gone. I am the first grandchild to Paul and Catherine Lamb. Born in 1993, you can only imagine the excitement new grandparents must have to contain. Rumor has it that a week after I was born, my parents drove 7 to 8 hours to Orange. The moment they arrived, Paul and Gunggong burst out of the house, opened the car door, and took me inside, conveniently leaving mom and dad to bring in the luggage. As children, my sister and I spent nearly every summer in Orange, California, Camp Orange as it became. There we spent hours crafting, gardening, and swimming. Papa takes us to the library, leaving my sister and I to build a kingdom from piles and piles of books. Inspired by this newfound love, we bring home tales of wonder and magic. Gunggong takes us to the 99-cent store, allowing us to spring up and down the aisles in search for the summer's best toy. Water guns are always a smash. We arrive as pasty San Francisco city dwellers and leave sun-kissed California suburban girls. 5, 6, 7 grandchildren later, we inherit Papa's performative spirit and Gunggong's quirky sense of humor. Over time, we do it all, Christmas plays to family newsletters, team categories to mahjong. My grandparents brag about us all the time. I learned this during Papa's Monday walks around the mall. Their friends talk nonstop about our dance performances during my Papa and Gunggong's 50th anniversary. As an awkward teenager, I managed to throw away my pride and dance in public to S Club 7's Reach for the Stars, a show inspired by Disney cruise performers. To this day, I've never seen my Papa smile so brightly. Years later, they ask me how my teaching is. They ask me about my art, my passions. They even approve of my Chinese Hong Kong boyfriend. And this is a very, very difficult task to do. Very good looking, they say. If only their own grandchildren could find themselves a good looking Chinese boyfriend too. As we know, time slips away so fast. It's easy to get caught up in illusions of getting ahead in life. There's never enough time to call family or get in touch with friends. There's always some place to be and something to do. A love letter to Camp Orange captures simple moments with my grandparents. Papa's kitchen is the first place we head to every morning. Together, we sit at the round white table, passing around sections of the newspaper. My favorite are the comics. I love to laugh. Gunggong loves the obituaries. He loves seeing how long he's outlived everyone else. Gunggong drinks watered-down coffee. I drink milk. He tells me if I drink all my milk and finish college, we'll travel the world together. On the brightest days, Papa and Gunggong, my sister and I, still sit there, eating Papa's tasty sugar-covered teriyaki chicken and buttered rice. We talk about the adventures we created and explored all through the rooms of 2434 East Valley Glen Lane. Our hands and smiles fly all over the place. Our cheeks are rosy, our hair wild. Gunggong fumbles with the remote control, getting himself ready for 60 minutes. Tomorrow, we will be going back home. The skies are purple and orange, the pool lit. A cold whisper breezes through the screen door. Gunggong closes it. Chilly, he says. Mosquitoes won't come tonight. My sister and I nod as we gulp down the last of our bowls. In the army, Gunggong had to eat fast if he wanted a second bowl. It must have passed down through the generations. We get up from our chairs, ready for a new bowl. Mom will not allow for such fatty rice when we go home. only at Camp Orange. Our summer days are coming to an end. And during his last final months, I tell Gong Gong that we will travel. I will push him around in a wheelchair if it's the last thing I do. And he chuckles and shakes his head. I must go on this journey alone. Find yourself, he jokingly says. He always says this. Find yourself. And so with that, I also do want to acknowledge that the house has been sold. My grandparents, their last name is Lamb, and it's nice to know that the family who bought the new house, their last name is also Lamb, and so he's within the Lamb family. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Katie. I couldn't help but wonder, is Gong Gong me? Because I also love 60 Minutes, and I also love reading the obituaries for whatever reason. So I kept feeling Gong Gong's presence with me. So thank you for that. That was lovely. Next up, we have Julie Andersen. And Julie Andersen has been a part of Place since 2014. She is a craniosacral practitioner, curator, and visual artist in the San Francisco Bay Area and Northern California. She is the founder of Chatterbox Arts International and the San Francisco Altered Barbie exhibition, integrating cross-cultural arts platforms in San Francisco and China. She is a busy, busy lady. So you guys are very lucky to have her today. So without further ado, let's have Julie up on the screen. Hi, Julie.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you beautifully. Go ahead, girl.
Great, hi. Thank you, Ahran, for that. And I just want to say, I've been friends with Cynthia as an art colleague and just friend for over 30 years, and before even my gallery started. And when she created a place of her own, I was humbled and honored to be asked to be a part of Place. And sorry, oops, my phone's being funny. And I was humbled and honored to be able to be part of Place. Place has been a huge point of healing and regaining trust in myself and after some devastating life events, which brought me to my knees. Place has given me space to explore art play, breath, chakra awareness, and writing. I've begun to excavate and accept and invite my hungry ghost to drink tea with me and integrate all of my being into my place. I am beginning to understand and be grateful for the lessons I've been gifted. I have found through Place a starting point of what my place is. Place offers a series of workshops, as Cynthia mentioned, and the first phase of Place is exploring your hungry ghost. And this is to name and acknowledge ancestry and legacy for me. The excavation of their stories and the impacts they have on our lives and choices. My hungry ghosts are a culmination of many generations of colonized and colonizing peoples. I welcome all my ancestors, past, present, and future. I began Place 2020 by looking outward, and then I came home. And in this moment, my place is simply to accept who I am in this legacy and to take a deep breath. This is my love letter to myself. Coming home, body, mind, spirit, inspiration, and intuition. Breathing, I mean taking a simple breath, has been a lifelong struggle for me. This autonomic act compromised due to lifelong stressors passed down from generation to generation of ancestors and family affected by war, poverty, displacement, division, violence, and fear. This holding breath affects my ability to transition easily. Holding my breath, hanging in suspension and waiting is a defensive war stance and is one of my hungry ghosts. Learning to breathe fully has allowed me to begin exploring this rigid holding. It's a dance of connecting breath and all my fears and ancestry. Breath for me is accepting and holding all parts of my being in dynamic fluidity, physical, spiritual, and emotional, without judgment or criticism, or wallowing in illness and shadow. Breath allows flow, cleansing, and depth of my being to the whims of delight and ease of my spirit, dancing in light, Breath allows for play, creativity, and action and thought. Breath allows me to accept miracles, love, and support. Breath also allows me the strength to resist the urge to fix myself, my life, or others, or to cave to societal pressures and self-judgments, encoding it into my DNA. In short, to reject the I am not good enough and I am invisible thought pattern. Breath in and out naturally, meaning breathe at my own ease and leisure. Listening and slowing down, exploring all internal workings of my body consciously. I become aware of how I present to the world and it to me. The reflections of the day and all my relations, past, present, and future, where I sit with it all, unprepared and present, disconnected and yet connected, contented and unsettled. My body and mind feels like rolling fog initially with each breath. The shuffling cards begin and emotions, to-do lists, and physical settling show themselves in layers. At first, there is a lack of distinction, a blurring of boundaries, but with each breath, there is an allowance and differentiation, fluidity and connection, health. Exhaustion, presence, overwhelm, satisfaction, sorrow, happiness, anger, joy, judgment, acceptance, ambiguity, love, boundaries, broken and healthy. My left hip hurts as I breathe. The pain expands through my right side up to my neck, then dissipates back down out my left foot. Weird. The ringing in my ears slows and I can feel my heart, the pumping of the blood loud and then regulating. The process of deeper connection is happening as the hard edges of my body and life melt into the allowing and acceptance of breath. Not all at once, tension and ease as I feel myself where I am in the room, the outline of my body in time and space, feet on the ground, into the earth, dark and cooling, then warm and hot, through the layers towards the core, then back up through the bottoms of my feet, ankles, shins, knees, thighs. I breathe in and out. I am here. I am real. I love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. The ignition point for my breath that begins in the perineum and rises up into my abdomen. I have the right to feel and have pleasure. The heat of the breath expands further up my spinal cord and wraps around my belly, where I breathe in and out light and respect for my body, mind, and spirit. Heat swirls above the belly button with assurance and breath. I state, I honor the power within me. I flow through life connected and supported with flexibility. I breathe again, naturally holding my heart, believing I have the right to love and be loved. This light and heat ignition expands into my throat. My voice rings out, I am clear in communicating with love, and I allow creativity to flow through my breath and body. The ignition and light rises, becoming complete as my body is opening stronger, light and heat expanding behind my eyes, between the ears. I am manifesting my vision and seeing all things clearly. The light energy opens up to spirit through the top of my head and through my breath. I am being guided by my inner wisdom and spirit. Health through breath. I look around the room, humbled, still, and dynamic. In this moment, I feel accepting of myself and connected to source and all life through breath. Integrating and letting go, allowing for the flowering of trust in my inherent health and intuition that is and always has been. The more I trust and love myself and the world around me, the more I breathe and want to be connected, loving and be loved. This loving connection reverberates through my life, out to my family and loved ones, and back again. The celebration of integration of the I am, the rainbow of me and everything and everybody around me. My newfound breath is my place, my core, and supported inner guidance. Thank you, place, for granting the gift to feel and settle and accept me.
Thank you, Julie. That was beautiful. I couldn't help but notice how your writing is so beautiful, because it helped me occupy my own body. You gave language to the somatic roadmap. And I think as women, we often don't know how to occupy our bodies because it's often projected upon by everybody else. So when a woman can really be aligned in her physical experience, that truly is a miracle, and that's radical protest. So thank you so much for giving language to that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the show continues. Next up, we have Emily Yamauchi. She joined us for the 2020 residency. She is a writer and artist in Oakland, California. She was an educator for over 15 years and currently works in immigration law. She writes fiction, essays, and comics, and is working on a graphic memoir about interrupting and creating new family patterns. So Emily, like many of the women in place, are multi-talented. And without further ado, let's have Emily take the stage.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who has come to see and support us today, and everyone who might tune in later. Like Katie, this is the first time that some of my family will be hearing this talk and seeing some of the things I'm doing, so I'm really excited about that too. My talk today is about perfectionism, but not in the way you might think. Because what I've discovered is that perfectionism isn't really about being perfect. The appearance of confidence is always important, but in practice, I'm often like, well, that's good enough. I'm a huge procrastinator, and most perfectionists I know are. When I'm being myself, I'm not a very careful person. I tend to jump into things, new interests, new projects, even major life decisions, without full information and sometimes on a whim. And I don't care much for being appropriate. When I meet someone who is always perfectly appropriate, I usually think they're hiding something. I detest uniformity. I think boredom is a crime. And I tend to avoid things I don't want to do until it's impossible to ignore. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, that natural imperfection makes things interesting and beautiful, really resonates with my aesthetics. You might think, these are not the traits of perfection, and you would be right. They don't really lend themselves to attaining that goal, right? This is my point. There is conflict between how I authentically am and the compulsion to present a certain way, and this is the root of perfectionism. Perfectionism isn't so much about needing to be perfect as it is about believing that how I am is fundamentally flawed. And because of that, I've always tried to cover it up and prove my worth through achievement and accomplishments. The gulf between this self-limiting belief and my authentic self created a constant feeling of unease and deep frustration. Where did this belief come from? I've had to examine everything from my childhood traumas and conditioning I've received over the years to beliefs and patterns I've inherited or witnessed in my family, and the root of their traumas and patterns through ancestral lines. Somewhere along that line, I learned that despite my natural gifts and abilities, I am unacceptable. What I'm understanding about perfectionism is that it isn't something I caused in myself, and therefore isn't a fault to be ashamed of. It's a symptom of trauma and inextricably tied to other symptoms like hypervigilance, codependency, the compulsion to worry about everyone else's needs before your own. I'm working all the time to completely separate my self-worth from achievement and accomplishments, to truly feel that I'm worthy just as I am. There are no conditions to be met before I'm deserving. Dismantling perfectionism can be distilled down to that single and enormously powerful belief. It's not simply an affirmation that I say to myself while secretly believing. In reality, how I feel about myself is of course tied to my achievements or accomplishments, or lack thereof. It takes a tremendous amount of courage, diligence, faith, dedication, and self-love, and is the true work of healing. I realize now how uncommon, how revolutionary it is to actually do the real work to set myself free. The title of my piece, Mukashi Banashi, meaning tales of long ago, refers to Japanese folk tales. They usually begin mukashi mukashi aru toko ni, or once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was blissfully free of self-policing, shaming, and hierarchical thinking. I shone brightly without much thought and without fear. My inside and my outside were the same. This is what I'm working my way back towards, back to what is my natural state, which is free. My art piece represents a return to my intuitive natural place. The scenes are a depiction of my internal landscape, which I imagine as the universe inside me, infinitely explorable, self-replenishing, and self-healing. Each section represents an aspect that is necessary for a healthy, thriving, authentic self. Self-love, self-care, intuition, trust, creation, manifestation, and transformation. I'm rewriting my personal mukashi banashi, one that was always completely free and authentically me, unmarred by conditioning from old patterns, inherited beliefs, and trauma. In place, we talk a lot about hungry ghosts, those sticky negative beliefs and patterns that have settled into our minds and bodies. I felt a strong connection between this concept of hungry ghosts and tengu in Japanese folklore. Traditionally, these half-bird, half-human spirit creatures wreaked havoc and created chaos and wars among the human race, lured spiritual enlightenment seekers off their path, and possessed people's minds. In the same way, our hungry ghosts can create chaos and internal wars inside ourselves and confuse our natural paths. For the last 8 months, I've been on an intense journey to decondition myself from hungry ghosts, recognize that they are not mine, and stop feeling like I'm constantly fighting against myself. Over time, the depiction of tengu transformed to also be known as protectors and guardians of forests, mountains, and temples, and have come to be celebrated. Could you go back 2 slides, please? For the last 8 months, oh, I've already read that. Over the time, after the tengu transformed to become celebrated, in that same spirit of transformation, I've constructed a reimagined personal tengu that represents my old patterns and negative beliefs, transformed and set free in the form of a protector and guardian of my place. If you saw the 2 slides ago, that was the drawing. That is the impetus for the tengu that I constructed in 3D, which is in the gold cage. Yeah, that one. I invite you to think about what your hungry ghosts may be and what it would be like to coexist peacefully with them instead of spending all of your energy trying to get rid of them or ignore them. What would it be like to simply notice and even value the hungry ghosts that inhabit your place as information and as teachers? I invite you to create your own personal tengu, your transformed guardian and protector. The act of creating the piece turned out to be part of the healing process for me. Making my art piece, the perfectionism hungry ghost came rising up again to fight against myself, to do what I wanted versus what I thought was correct. This time, I recognized it, I sat with it, I did not berate myself for it, and I trusted myself to know what to do when the time is right. Once I gave myself full permission to scrap all those ideas and let my intuition, not logic, rule, I found play and fun, inspiration, effortless and abundant creative flow. I found my authentic self. More and more, I no longer feel the need to prove myself to anyone, not the world, my peers, my family, or myself. I practice living every day authentically, honestly, without shame, and in non-fear. There is no version of me for show, no version of me that is not me. This is true freedom. It's what I've always wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That was beautiful. As a fellow recovering perfectionist, I understand the struggle of really sitting with the resistance of wanting to control everything, and that's a very classic hungry ghost, and it takes a lot of courage to sit with that and work through it, and then get to the other side and be able to say, this hungry ghost is actually a teacher. I'm not bad for being colonized this way because that was done to me. And I think Emily is a really good example of going through this process with grace. So thank you so much for that, Emily. That was beautiful. Okay, so next up, we have Janet King. I'm so excited. She's amazing. We're all amazing, but Janet, I'm excited for this. So Janet King, she joined us for the 2020 residency. She is a 60+ Native American woman from the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina. She is a mother of an adult child and has worked at the Native American Health Center for the past 24 years. Her entire working career has been dedicated to nonprofit agencies, most of them Native American. She advocates for systemic changes so people of color and LGBTQ communities have culturally responsive care and healthy communities. So her life work is very aligned with what Cynthia has built with Place. And so without further ado, let's have Janet King come to the stage.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, good. Okay. Thank you, Ahran, for that introduction. And I just want to say hello, relatives, all of you for listening. And also, I have some relatives that tuned in, 2 sisters and 2 daughters. They're not blood daughters and sisters, but they became sisters and daughters because we chose each other. And I'm very grateful to have them here listening to me today. I also want to acknowledge that we're in the land of Huichin, and Huichin is the name that the Ohlone people had for this area before the colonizers renamed it the San Francisco Bay Area. And I just want to say thank you to Place, to Cynthia and Ahran. I feel like even though I'm probably older than both of you, he really reparented me. And one thing that was a great gift to me by Place is just being noticed. I mean, sometimes I'll do something that nobody noticed when I was a kid, but Cynthia noticed it and would say something about it. And I was like, wow, you notice me? You see me? So I went through a process of being reparented by going through Place. So I'd like to start out my artist statement by talking about turtles. I've always liked turtles and always been fascinated by them and attracted to them. So the sea turtle is the one I want to talk about. So the sea turtle, when the woman, the female sea turtle is going to have the next generation, when she's going to lay her eggs, she does something that really intrigued me. She swims out of the ocean at her natural habitat. She swims ashore and she digs out a sandy pit, and then she lays all her eggs, and then she covers them all up, and then she swims away. This story fascinated me when I saw it, because it's kind of like, bye, you're on your own. And this story really resonated with me. I feel like it described my upbringing, and it described my mother's upbringing. My mother told me stories that the only quality time she had with her mother was a few minutes while my grandmother was cooking. She would share a few words with my mom. My mother said that my grandmother would return to work in the fields even after the day after she had a baby. She would return to the fields. And for those of you who have birthed children, going back to work the next day is not something you feel like doing. My mother, being the oldest girl that my grandmother birthed, was the one to care for her siblings, her younger siblings, while my grandmother worked. So bye, you're on your own was a pattern in my mother's childhood as well. In total, my grandmother birthed 9 children. My mother's story is very similar. She birthed 7 children. My 2 older sisters were the mothers in my family while my mother worked. And here they are on this picture. You know, Lavetta's the one holding my hand. I'm the youngest one, and my sister Kathy is holding Lavetta's hand. We had to be quiet when we played so my mother, who worked nights, could get some rest. There were some very distressful moments for my oldest sister, who had the responsibility to keep us safe while my mother was gone, that still haunt her today. So bye, you're on your own was an especially stressful event for my oldest sister. When I became a mother, I vowed not to repeat this pattern, but circumstances did create it at times in my life. My daughter fared a lot better than I did and my mother's siblings when she was born. She got more of my attention than the former two previous generations of children from their mothers. We had bedtime rituals of storytelling. There was a summer, though, when she was a teenager and able to be home alone, that she was home alone while I worked. I would rush home on lunch break, bring her food, and bye, you're on your own, would take over until I got home from work. This is a summer I wish that I could change. In the center of my art piece is a lumbee cabin. And I think, yeah, so this is an old picture of a lumbee cabin, and I made a replica of it. So in my story, in my art piece, though, the lumbee cabin is a time machine. It's a time machine to take us back to the old culture before the colonizers came and replaced our kind, loving culture with a violent, on your own culture that we've endured. The old culture revered women as life givers, and leaving children to chance to be raised by other children would never have been permitted. The developmental stages of children would be honored and not rushed. Children could ease into adulthood and not be rushed, as it happened to my sisters. So in this lumbee cabin, I think if you can advance the picture. Okay, so here's my replica of a lumbee cabin. I made it out of sticks. And so in the lumbee cabin, the time machine, there's two pictures. One's a black and white picture of me and my older sisters representing the past. And there's another picture of me and my younger sisters, a colored picture representing the future. And the picture of my older sisters, that was the only one I could find. There was one I wanted to find to put in the lumbee cabin, the time machine, but I couldn't find it. And not being able to find it kind of became metaphoric of my whole process of doing my art. You know, finding the past was really hard. It was hard to find the way we were before the colonizers came. And the reason why I like that picture of my sisters, the one that I couldn't find, is that they were laughing and playing, and they were being children and not being parents. So that became another metaphor for the story. It's like the colonizers' pattern of robbing yourself, robbing the people that you're subjugating of their own memories of themselves. So to answer the question, if I had a place of my own, what would it be like? It would be a place where we can be ourselves and not a colonized version of who we were. The old culture is revitalized, and women can do more than just birth their babies. They get to raise them and spend time with them. Village life is centered around caring for this next generation and not working to death to make a colonizer rich. It is a place of rest where you can fully rest before you go back to work the next day. It is a place of self-care that is an established daily ritual and not something you get to do once in a while on a vacation. Women are safe from rape, from misogyny, from patriarchy, from toxic masculinity, and other colonizer patterns. Children get to be children. It is a place where we get to live in harmony with our plant relatives, our animal relatives, our earth mother, our cosmic relatives. It is a place where you're on your own is no longer a practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. So this is Janet's first art piece, and that's a really big deal because it's my personal belief that we all have artists inside, but if you don't choose to let that artist out, then you're not an artist, right? So it does take vulnerability and courage to tell yourself, I'm gonna translate a vision I have and put it out there tangibly. And to do that, to say yes to yourself and say, I need the world to see and hear this, that's really magical. And the fact that she was able to make this beautiful piece at her first try, that's tremendous. So I want to congratulate you, Janet, on creating this beautiful piece. And thank you for speaking today. Thank you. Yay. Okay, so next up, we have Norma Carrera, Norma joined Place in 2018. That's when I met her, when we were going through the residency program together. And she is back for her second residency with Place. She is originally from Veracruz, Mexico, and has lived in San Francisco for 30 years. She is a community leader focusing largely on Latina women's well-being. Yay! Norma will be sharing her artist talk in Spanish, and Cris, Cynthia's partner, will provide her English translation. So, Norma, get up here. Yay.
Hi, hola, buenas tardes. So, thank you for being here. I wanted to let you know my first language is Spanish, so I'm trying so hard to make English. I'm going to make it in Spanish, and Cris, he's going to translate it to me in English what Ahran say. So, esta es mi segunda vez en mi propio espacio, 2020. Una pregunta es, si tuvieras tu propio espacio, ¿cuál sería? Definitivamente mi balanza en mi cuerpo y en mi mente. ¿Qué cosas claves representan tu trabajo? Balance en mi propia persona y espacio a través de las 7 chakras. Next. Las cuales trato de alinear y estar en balance cada día. Next. ¿Qué fue difícil? Lo más difícil es haber encontrado mi propio yo sin dejar mi esencia, mi propia personalidad a un lado, ser yo misma al 100%. Fácil, traer a mi cabeza la manera de cómo deseaba tener mi balanza. El arte afloró en mí cuando tuve la idea de tener mi propio espacio para mí misma. Frustrante no poder poner en una balanza toda la imaginación que yo deseaba, ya que debo seleccionar lo que realmente me sirve y no cargar de más con cosas que no debo tener. Maravilloso. Lo más maravilloso fue descubrir que al fin encontré mi propio espacio, que no necesito un lugar para poder estar feliz. Encontrar mi propia esencia y mi balanza es maravilloso. El saber que no depende de nadie en mi felicidad y ni estabilidad emocional, que solamente yo tengo el poder de mi propia felicidad. Yo elijo quién me hace feliz y qué me hace feliz, sin culpar a nadie, ni esperar que nadie me haga feliz. Next. Milagroso, porque al cambiar mi forma de pensar, muchas cosas alrededor cambiaron. ¿Qué encontré gratificante? Lo más grato que encontré es la alegría de poder hacer las cosas como yo deseo, sin pensar en agradar a nadie, por temor a lastimar sentimientos que no son mi responsabilidad. Lo más útil y sorprendente es poder decir y expresar next, con mi verdad, sin temor a autojuzgarme, yo misma. ¿Qué aprendí? Aprendí en este proceso que puedo traspasar generaciones, que puedo romper ataduras. Next. Que los fantasmas de mis ancestros son pasado, que yo decido cuándo ellos me pueden hacer daño. Next. Los honro porque son parte de mi aprendizaje, como hija, como hermana, como mujer, como esposa. Next. Y que ahora, a través de mi balanza de forma cilíndrica, ellos solo tienen el derecho a dar vueltas y vueltas y vueltas, sin poder esconderse más en ningún rincón de mi vida. Yo honro mi vida, honro mi espacio y honro mi nueva generación, familia, hijo y esposos. Next. Yo hablo con la verdad. Yo soy balance. Mis decisiones no es casualidad. El universo y Dios me regresan lo que yo necesito con amor, porque al fin acepto que me quieran como soy. ¿Qué descubrí? ¿Qué descubrió mi pequeña Normita? Mi pequeña Normita descubre que la mujer que se ha convertido en Norma jamás la dejará sola, que nadie podrá hacerle ningún daño, porque siempre estará protegida por la persona honesta y fuerte que es Norma, que saldrá corriendo a su encuentro, la tomará entre sus brazos y la llevará a lo más alto, donde nadie la pueda tocar emocionalmente, ¿no? Y que juntas estarán aisladas en el lugar perfecto que es nuestro balance, que ahora ha encontrado un espacio para ellas dos. Next. Que nadie tiene permiso de entrar. ¿Cómo ha cambiado este proceso en ti? Next. Ha cambiado toda mi forma de pensar. Antes creía que era algo malo la manera de comportarme. He aprendido y aceptado que el ser diferente en mi forma al resto de mi familia no es porque sea una persona mala, es porque estoy trayendo a mis nuevas generaciones la oportunidad de un nuevo amanecer, sin violencia, sin culpas, sin abusos, sin ataduras, sin remordimientos, sin reproches, sin cuestiones, sin manipulaciones. Agradezco a mis mentores Cynthia Tom, Maggie D, Natalie, Sacramento, Ahran, quienes han brindado un continuo apoyo, amor y ayuda incondicional siempre. Agradezco a Brian, esposo de Maggie, y a Cris, esposo de Cynthia, por estar en el programa siempre ayudando. Thank you. So now Christian, he's going to make the English part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Norma, can you help us with the slides
Yes,
when Chris is doing it?
Yes.
So you can start again, Ahran.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cris Matos. Welcome to this wonderful program, and I'm going to be doing the English translation for Norma.
Is his volume okay?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
If I had a place of my own, what would it be? A place where I can balance in my own body and mind. The balance in my own person and space through the 7 chakras, which I try to align and be in balance with each one of them, and my total connection with the universe.
Next.
The hardest thing is discovering my own self, embracing my essence, my own personality, permission to be myself 100%.
Next.
I easily imagined flowers blooming when I think about the space I wanted for myself.
Next.
Not being able to put on a scale everything my imagination wants, since I must select what really serves me and not carry over with things that I should not have.
Next.
Discovered that I finally found my own space, that I do not need a physical place to be happy.
Next.
And to find myself with my own essence and my balance, is wonderful to know that I do not depend on anyone for my happiness and emotional stability. I have the power over my own happiness, and I choose what makes me happy without blaming anyone or expecting anyone to make me happy.
Next.
Miraculous, because I have been able to change the way I think. Many things around me have changed. The most pleasing thing that I found is my joy of being able to do things as I wish, without worrying about what everyone else thinks, especially my relatives, for
Next.
fear of hurt feelings. Their feelings are no longer my responsibility.
Next.
The most useful and surprising thing now is that I can tell and express myself with my truths without self-judgment.
Next.
I learned that I can go beyond generations, that I can break ties, that the hungry ghosts of my ancestors are the past, and I get to decide when they can hurt me. I honor them because they are my teachers, as part of my learning as a daughter, sister, mother, and wife.
Next.
Now, through my circular balance, they only have the right to go around and around without hiding any more corners of my life. I honor my space, I honor my life, and I honor new generations of my family, children, and husband. I speak to the truth that I am balanced in my decisions. Nothing is a coincidence. The universe and God provides me with what I need with love, because I finally accept that God, the universe, loves me as I am. And my little Normita, she discovered that the grown-up Norma will never leave her alone. No one will be able to harm her because she will always be protected by the honest, strong person, me.
Next.
If Normita runs away when she feels that she is in danger, I will take her in my arms and rescue her from the second floor, lower chakra, and to the highest floor, the seventh chakra, where wisdom of intuition and the arms of God keep anyone wanting to cause harm from touching her emotionally. Together they can insulate in this perfect place. It is the balance that they have embraced, a safe space for them where no one is allowed to enter without permission. Place changed my whole way of thinking. Before, I thought I was bad, think to be different. I was the odd person in my family. I have learned and accepted that being different from the rest of my family is not because I am a bad person. It's because I am here to break destructive family patterns. I am bringing to my new generations the opportunity of a new dawn, without violence, without abuse, without fear, without reproach, without issues, and without manipulations. Thank you very much. One more thing. In memory of my mother, with love. Thank you, Amita. Wonderful. Beautiful.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm sitting with a lot of feelings right now, as I'm sure all of you are. I just want to say hi to little Normita. I've gotten to know her since 2018, and she has grown, and little Normita makes me laugh. And I couldn't help but notice how today, you know, Norma is very with her artwork and really sitting with, you know, talking about her journey. And sometimes that takes us to tender places, because it is hard work to confront our hungry ghosts and really be empowered in being an ancestral pattern shifter, aka black sheep of the family, the one who questions all the things and the one who can't sit still and, you know, makes a fuss. The way in place, the way we empower the women to own that is to say, you notice things that other people don't notice. You are using your voice to say, hey, this needs to be different in order for us to heal. So it is not a small feat to own that Black sheep identity and be the leader or be the individual who calls out the colonization. So really important work. Thank you so much, Norma. And thank you, Cris, for offering your services. That was beautiful. It takes a village, you guys. It takes a village. Okay, next up, we have the beautiful Reyna. Reyna Daudian joined us for the 2020 residency. She is a public health nurse by training. Now she works to share dream stories. I love that word, dream stories. Bridging via intertribal canoe building and expands the work of a healing canoe addressing post-traumatic environmental trauma with hopes to heal ancestral trauma passed on over generations of colonialism. She is a novice carver of a 22-foot red Western cedar dugout double outrigger canoe and the vision holder and co-founder of Balik Sa Dagat Bangka Journey. I had to practice saying that multiple times. Okay, so without further ado, let's have Reyna come to the stage.
Hi everyone, thank you Ahran, Cynthia. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you good.
Great. So hola, welcome to all. Maayo, tuloy po kayo. I'm excited and nervous, so I'll do this as best I am able to. Thank you everyone for joining us. First, I acknowledge the original peoples of this sacred but stolen territories of the Chochenyo Ohlone. I acknowledge my indigenous teachers, young and old, my angels and babaylans, healers who have blessed me in my life and encouraged me to follow my dreams. And one of them is here on Zoom. Uncle Phil, thank you. With this precious 8 minutes, I dedicate this space to my parents, Adelia and Laribo, and Papa Nestor Sr., my father-in-law, who was actually hospitalized this morning. Also to my siblings, I love you all and thank you. I acknowledge warriors and families fighting against injustices in the front lines, and in solidarity with Black Lives Matters and Indigenous resistance, I also dedicate this space to those killed by the brutality of racist police and to those who passed on during this time of current pandemic crisis, because all sentient beings matter. What slide we're on? Oh, next slide, please. I'm honored to be amongst the circles of hella sacred women of place of our own, saying yes together. Women that keep the heart fires burning, a place where creativity is at its peak and fullness. Next slide, please. I'm a survivor of survivors, a daughter of immigrants returning to ancestral lands unknown. I hope to fulfill my auntie role in honor of my Auntie Haiti and Auntie Matilda. Both were my grandmother's childless sisters. I am a wife, a caregiver to loved ones with chronic debilitating conditions, as well as a care receiver. 2.5 years ago, I lost myself in the darkness of brain fog related to a car accident that halted the life I once knew. I learned quickly how folks with invisible conditions go through dehumanizing loopholes in our systemic oppression of our broken capitalistic illness-promoting healthcare industry. Last summer, I was fortunate to be a participant of an intensive chronic pain management program, and I relearned how to walk amongst the non-concussed, non-TBI, traumatic brain injured world. 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, for 5 weeks, I walked past the lovely mural that you see on the left side of the screen with images that resonated with my inner child. It reminded me of the late Grandpa Babe's dream of indigenous children gathering, singing and dancing on canoes at dawn to heal Earth Mother. It reminded me of my dreams that I'd forgotten. Synchronicities indeed. I responded to a Facebook post by Barbara a call out for place of her own 2020. Next slide, please. I'm learning more deeply about this radical act of self-love and self-care. And today I am so blessed and grateful that behind this adorned vagina warrior face mask, I speak with clarity. I write with coordination. I breathe life together with you right at this moment in time. And that's a beautiful thing. Next slide, please. Hellas sacred women circles supported me to consecrate into volcanic fires, guilt and shame passed on to descendants of ancestral rape. My maternal great-grandmother's grandmother is one of twins that had a child with a padre, a priest ancestor. Photo above in the middle is my mom's mom, Lola Nening, holding me and my twin sister in her arms. We are twin descendants of twin islander women matriarch from the island of Bohol. There are plenty juice stories of this padre's family tree, from this padre's hungry ghost that traveled by way of the Pacific Ocean through the galleon trades in the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade routes in the 1700s, where the foreigners raped the lands of the islands and also its indigenous inhabitants. This links me back full circle here, being in this land, in hopes to learn more about my ancestors on this side of the continent. Today, with much respect, I greet my maternal ancestral lands and waters. Hola. ¿Qué tal? I welcome relations that I have yet to meet that are settled here in the Bay Area, and some might be virtually viewing with us today or tomorrow. This is from the Sausa de Berenguer de Marquina clan. We are descendants of Mexican Otomi, Abuelita Altagracia, de Tequila, Jalisco, Mexico. Next slide, please. A place of her own gave me building blocks to safely express my authentic beauties. There are many layers in this heartwork using repurposed items, but quickly and briefly, I'll introduce the Canoe family. Lola Balanghay, and her photo taken in 1899, is one of my twin matriarch who embraces in her arms in a bed covered in a soft blanket of the blues of the water and the blues of the skies, where a little girl canoe sleeps and rests her weariness from carrying the heaviness of the hungry ghost of the past on her chest. On dreaming, she emerges as a queen canoe dream, a dream weaver with an activated dream power paddle. And thank you to Uncle Blue Jay, the ringman of a tribal canoe journey. I've got my paddle done this time. So to answer the question, what would my place of my own be like? It's a place of sanctuary, a safe place where I set the pace for my own healing, where I breathe love, I breathe hope, I breathe abundance. A place where respect for women and consent is the norm. The sick are cared for without having to beg for help. This sanctuary is well protected with sheer strength of majestic crystalline horses as big as the Bay Bridge, with their mane beautifully shining rainbow prism hues, and with a herd of giant horse beings facing east right behind her, next to her, all around her, loving and caring for each other. It's a playground where universal canoe journeys in the cosmic galaxies, traveling through a timeline of pre-colonial spaces where the air is crisp and abundant waters are sparkling clean. Next slide, please. I pay tribute to working brains and teeny tiny atlases that balances the skull and links to the neck and spine. Amazing our human bodies are, and I love you. When I go deeper into the golden spine of my Mod Podge dream power paddle, at its core is a solid Visayan warrior's sword. So with my dream power paddles, I invoke spirit guides to create new grounds for more love, clear out injustices, and spread new growth for the greatest freedom, the true self. Hawk Brother says, to find true fulfillment and beauty, understand your attachments, own them, accept them, be proud of your accomplishments, then release them. Freedom comes when you belong, when your belongings no longer own you. I am free as I step into my name as Reyna ang Levi Daudian. You may call me Rad for short. I stand my ground and by doing so invoke men that I love, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, all my relations, to take responsibility to heal and move on towards freedom, especially to create healing spaces of men by men for men themselves, because we need each other to heal together. We need each other to paddle through the oceans of the storms, but each one must do each of their own work themselves with integrity. Lastly, in my place of sanctuary, I invoke the power of elephant medicine, strong matriarchal bonds, with deep reverence, great memory for loved ones and their ancestors and ancestral wisdom. Next slide, please. This is the final slide. So I ask you, and I share with you, it's time to play, to sing and dance paddle songs. I am ready with my buksai, my paddle, my Dreamweaver power paddles. Will you join me with yours? In closing, a special thank you to my twin sister, Mycel, for gifting me this beautiful healing arts program called Place of Her Own, and a supportive and loving Iroko Sijuno, my husband. I close with Grandpa Babe's wisdom to remember, for me to remember, and to invite you to remember, to travel in the vastness of the river of the Milky Way and return as a dream, as a good idea, and always keep the window of the heart open. I dare to dream bigger than big. I am baby steps as I am giant leaps. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Reyna, so much. Oh, I need to gather myself. Oh my gosh. I think one of the things that really stood out for me with Reyna when I first met her was her soothing voice, and just listening to her talking about her journey, and I kind of felt like ASMR, you know. It was very soothing for me to hear her. And I just want to make a point about saying, you know, when we cry or when we exhale, that is our body in real time metabolizing and alchemizing something really important. I think the colonized mind likes to say crying or tears are a sign of weakness. It is absolutely the complete opposite of that. So when you guys witness these women have a moment of an exhale, or they're holding their breath because they're trying to get through their talk, but tears are coming, that is you in real time witnessing these women healing and having that be witnessed. That is the power of place. So with that said, last but not least, we're going to have Paz Zamora take the stage. And Paz has been an alumni and community liaison with Place since 2016. She has worked tirelessly for 13 years with Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco, most recently as a director of Citywide Creative Arts. She is on the board of the Arts Education Alliance for the Bay Area, an SF Human Rights Working Group around anti-racism and equity. She is working to bring place and healing art workshops to the Central Valley. She's doing very important work. And let's have Paz come to the Place stage.
Hello, everybody. Well, I hope I'm not a stage. It looks like a backyard to me, but I'll take it. First of all, I want to welcome you to the land of the Yokwat people, and also honor all the ancestors here today. My own ancestors from the Mexica tradition. My name is Patricia Zamora, and the acronym is PAZ, which means peace in Spanish, and that is my artist name. I want to give a shout out to the Place Sisters, for just their beauty and their words and everything that they have done and shown and are doing for themselves, to grow for others. The place team, Cris, for helping us be that eye on our process and our technique. Ahran for co-facilitating place, along with Cynthia, who is the founder of place. And Cynthia has been both everyone, but especially I want to give a shout out to Cynthia just for being unconditional love and support. And not only to the group, but she also takes the time one-on-one. And so I just really, she has a very special spirit in this world. And as was mentioned, this is my 3rd time in place residency. And you might say, well, why? Why are you going 3 times? Aren't you healed already? And no, that's not the way it works. And each residency, and I'll talk more about that, but each residency with place at 6 months has been unique. There's a very beautiful curriculum, a very creative curriculum that all the play sisters have talked about, that Cynthia has put together for healing. But what I found was that there were so many things that I learned, but there came this moment where there was this part of the curriculum I had to go deeper. And that for me was the family patterns and looking at how we hold the energy in our body. And if you have never done a family map of your, it's not a family map where you just say, okay, this is my uncle, my aunt. This is where you trace out who drank, who hurt people, who was hurt in so many ways. And I was able to trace 7 generations in my family. And I started to see, I used to only see myself as one tree, and I started to see the forest and just how big and deep the trauma had been, not only for my family, but for people of color in this country and in this world. And so what happened was I started to see not only what had happened in the past, because you start putting names and who did what and what was the impact, but I started putting the names of the future generations. And I feel like I have to share this because these are people I love so much. Just like you all have people you love in your life. You don't want to see them go down the same road. And when you see that happening, it hurts you. And so one of the things I started to do was we did intuitive collage. We did the rocks, we did all kinds of activities, and we did the love letter. And so kind of like an ant that goes out of the ant hill, and then you go back in and you bring, thank you. You bring it back to the others. And so this right here, these first 2 pieces you see are actually my interpretation of the generations. And you can see it's in my body. That's actually an outline of my body, because when we don't heal our trauma, it starts to affect our body, our spirit, our mind, our dis-ease. And the second one is the same idea of the chakras and of the generations. And so you see like root, power, creativity, the heart, the voice, the vision, the spirit. And so I was really lucky that, next slide. Next slide. So I was really lucky that, like I said, I started to bring this back to my family. And you see here, this is in the home I'm at right now. It's in my mother's backyard. And this is like 4 generations of family members. And some of them are on today with me. And some of them, my sisters here sitting with me. Some of them are in the house. My auntie was here. My mom was 88, and my other sister. But it has meant a lot of support, and they allowed me to bring back these different ways to help not only understand my healing, but the healing of our collective family and the bigger community, because many of my family members are very involved in their church, and they are very committed to helping others to heal. Next slide. And so you see, this is a collection of their collages that they made, intuitive collages. This is a picture of my goddaughter, Adriana, my sister, Linda, my mother, looking at the artwork that was created. Next slide. And here you see we had a show, Marin Mocha, Hungry Ghost Show. That's on the right side. But on the left side, I did a little pre-show with my family, and they actually looked at all the pieces. I had a chance to talk to them about why was I doing this art and why did they matter to me so much. And so that's those two pictures. And my niece Ayana is here at the show at Marin Mocha. She was 9 years old, and she actually got up and spoke about how she wishes for her family to continue to be strong. And so usually when I do the artist talk, I do have family members who come and they'll speak out as well. Next slide. You're going to notice approach or a theme. So place for me, I mean, it's just been really important to bring in as many people that were open and not impose it on people, but just to bring it to them as a gift, as an offering, and to use it as a way to explore my own family's healing, because sometimes we go out in the community and we're wounded healers and we're trying to help others and we haven't even dealt with our own pain and trauma. And that's what place allowed me to see, but also gave me tools to address it. And this here, if I had a place of my own, it was during the pandemic. And so I decided, with the support of my beloved Michael War, to shelter in place with my mother and sisters. And, you know, everybody in the Central Valley is a hot spot. You know, my family work at the Foster Farms chicken plant right now. They had to close it down because people have been dying. I think over 300 people have been infected. And so, and these are the people that are putting food on our tables. And so I was just right in the middle of all this. And I'm like, how do you get peace in this? How do you get a place of your own? What does that mean in these times? And so in this, seeing the global and the climate, like right here, it's like 103 degrees out here. It's so hot. And it's a drought. And you see what's happening around the world. And we live, I'm not going to go into it a lot, but like other sisters were saying, you're seeing so much destruction, and it's not necessary. It is not necessary for people to have to suffer like that. And so when I started to think about a place of my own, I felt a way I could do that very concretely was starting with this land that I'm sitting on. This is a picture of what it looked like when it was all dry. And then my sister Eva and I would go out every morning and she would water it, and we put compost, and all those stones, my father brought them from the foothills, and each of them is a prayer to my family, a family member. And you can see here, it's actually a big green circle. And so when we were having, like, a lot of traumas came up during the pandemic. And so what we would do, sometimes it was not easy. Healing is not easy. It's not kumbaya. It's not kumbaya, and nor should it be. And we would meet at like 8 in the morning, and there we would start like talking about how we were feeling, what was going on, and the land, taking care of that land, not putting chemicals on it, putting compost, watering it, all those things were ways that we were able to heal. Next slide. And the second part of my place of my own was just ancestral trauma and COVID. Like I said, I actually incorporated the clothesline of my mother, which you'll see in a minute, which is kind of like one thing I'm learning about trauma is that there's so much shame around it, and there's so much pressure in this way, this colonized way, to not really go to the roots. And it's like a tree, this tree I'm sitting under. If you can't heal those roots, the leaves are not they're gonna die if we don't deal with the roots. And so I put it kind of like hanging out the dirty laundry and facing my fears. And place has been a place to do that through art and healing. Next slide. That's a picture of my mother, who would take pictures. She'd come on and talk to me. My sister, we were playing around with like, well, what should it say on there? Well, you know, and so her word was heal thy was heal her soul, because she's also going through her healing journey. Next slide. And so this is another iteration of playing with it. This is my sister Martha, and we do a very emergent type of art. It's really up until the last minute. It's not about perfection. It's not about, okay, I'm going to be an artist now. I'm going to go sell at SF MoMA. That's not my dream. My dream is that art is what Cynthia is doing, is that it's a tool for healing, a tool for connecting, for understanding. And sometimes we have really hard talks in place, but we create beauty from that trauma, and it gets transformed into our potential to go past our pain. And so this was another iteration. As you see, we're experimenting with the letters, and this was in the garage last night, and my sister was helping me cut the letters and just being a real great support. Next slide. And this is just some more what you'll see right now. Like each letter has a dedication of, for me, what healing means. And then this is on my car. This has soul. So that's just, again, making the words and making the meaning, because the art that I do is not about art for art's sake. And especially now in this moment of life that I'm in, it really has to be about something that is healing. And for me first. Next slide. A place of my own, just permission to heal, the recognition of the ability to heal because we understand, allowed me to practice, to show up in a healthy way for myself and for others. And so now I'm going to walk over to, I don't know if you can do that, Ahran. Piece right here.
That's perfect, Paz.
Okay, cool. So this is my piece. And I had pictures up, but I took them down. Actually, I should have just stood here the whole time. But I put like pictures of my nephews, my nieces, people that we've lost. And so like for me, if you were here with me, I would have asked you to bring a picture of somebody that you're praying for, someone that you're thinking about their healing. Bring an example of your own healing. And I want to ask you to feel free. I don't know if the chat line is there to chat, throw in there, what's Healed Eye for you? But this is what it is for me. It's about this land right now I'm on. It's about connecting with myself, taking care of myself, being present for my sisters and my mother and my people that matter to me during this pandemic. It's just really critical that we have to find a way forward because there's so much injustice happening right now, and it's so unnecessary. And the young people are waiting. They're the ancestors that are coming up, and I'm one of the ancestors that's already going. I have to act like an ancestor because the last thing I want to close with is there's 7. This is found art. So these were tablecloths. This was like newspapers, paint, the clothesline. But each of these 7 represent 7 generations in my family that we have been on this land. And one of my elders told me that when you can identify your 7th generation, that then that 7th is the healing generation. And so for me right now, that's why this is really important, is that I think we're here in our family at the 7th generation, and I'm on my ancestral land here. And this is the time to do it. So thank you.
That was supremely powerful, Paz, and I'm glad the technical stuff all worked out the way it should.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap up the artist talk portion of it and say that every single woman today, what they did for the audience was modeling imperfection and vulnerability. And the way women, and especially women of color, the way we are colonized is to sanitize parts of ourselves that is the essence of who we are. And the growth edges, the healing process, the recovery process, all of that is like Paz said, it's not kumbaya. It gets messy, it gets uncomfortable, it becomes sometimes really scary. But these women for the past 8 months have showed up week after week after week to confront their hungry ghost within sisterhood, be held, and also hold other sisters doing the work. And the art is just one aspect of that. The journey is what we were trying to convey to you guys, the messy and the glorious part of the journey, the healing process. So I'm feeling really full. I'm feeling really full in my heart and in my soul, and my body is kind of craving a bio break. So that's the end of the artist talk portion. The second half of today's event is the cup of tea time where you guys, the audience, can engage and interact with the artist. So if you have any dying questions or beautiful compliments that you guys want to endow the artist, please join us. I'm seeing that my clock is saying it's 2:56. So let's say for those of you who do want to engage in the artist talk, let's take 10 minutes. So what is it? What's 10 minutes from now? Let's just say at 3:08. I think that math is off, but whatever. 3:08. Let's have you guys back here and have the cup of tea. Bring a cup of tea. Bring refreshments and snacks so that you guys aren't too famished, and get into your bodies. And let's come back.
Why don't we just do a quick little grounding just to come back from break. And then I would love and honor anybody in our audience to share with us, because all of you that are on Zoom are very, your close family and friends, I think. And the people on YouTube Live, I wish we could interact with you, but we ran out of room. So thank you so much. So everybody just take a moment, take a deep breath in of what you just experienced, and let it kind of go into your body and to go into your cells. And just let out any negative stuff you've got left over from the day. So deep breath, another deep breath in. And just, I guess, close your eyes for a minute and sit with the gratitude of what just happened. 7 very courageous women just talked about very, very deep personal work. One more. And now we're hoping to share with our community. And if you feel that something is bubbling up in your throat that you want to say, chances are we need to hear it. So I encourage you to have the power to just step forward and say it. And another thing that I'm learning and teaching is when you allow something to come out of yourself in this group situation, it's very decolonizing, because we're taught to stay underground. As largely as people of color and women, we're largely told to hide. So I encourage you to step forward, because this is probably one of the safest environments you'll be in this year. So that being said, one more deep breath. Hi, Bronwyn. So come in to the room. And I encourage you to go ahead and speak up if there's something that we need to hear. And that includes the participants. If there's something you want to say, please, the artists, please feel free to speak up too. So I'd love you to unmute your mics if you have something to say. And breathe into this discomfort. It's okay. Okay.
I'd like to speak.
Who is that?
This is Nestor. Reyna's.
Oh, thank you, Nestor. Where is he?
I was able to listen to Norma's presentation, and that she really moved me very, very deeply, because it was all about the family, and that's the most important and the most most challenging thing for me. And she really just was like a mirror for me. In the way she was speaking, it's exactly what I would want. This program is called A Place of Our Own, and it's interesting that I would like to have a place of my own that resonates with what Norma was expressing. I know I know that I'm compelled to talk because my heart just really opened without me being in control. The same way last time spoke about being a perfectionist, and in the previous presentation, and again also I was very compelled to express to her. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on her name. It's Emily. You know, and she and I had a face-to-face talk, and it was really powerful. Hopefully, Norma and I will be able to talk at some point. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish though. You know?
Her English is pretty good.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. You could always invite Chris over and he'll interpret. Right? Translate.
We
It's
love
so beautiful. Chris. It's so beautiful that she actually expressed it in Spanish.
Yes, very important.
Because I could really feel her heart in her native language, you know, and so I'm very grateful. Face the Hungry Ghost. I got to really see what that really means, and there's the healing is that it's not a kumbaya, which was really profound as well, as Paz was saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Very profound to remind that it's not just like always, you know, the feeling good. That's what people expect with healing. And I'm in the healing field, and it's usually talking about pain and suffering, you know, and it's almost like it's just a bonus if you actually get to the other side of that kumbaya, you know. So thank you to give the courage and the permission to go to the darkness. So this program, I would say, is so profound. I really wish you would really have it for men as well.
You know, Nestor, since you spoke last time, I'm sorry, Nestor, to interrupt you.
Please.
I said, since you last talked to us, it's been rolling around in my head that we need to break the program into all the little workshops, and we can make them available for men, women, in between, and youth, probably teenage youth. It takes a village, and it's going to take help because there's nobody really. The funders I wrote fund if you apply and if there's money. So it takes funding and it takes coordination, but there's no reason why it can't work. And when I rest a little bit after this 8 months, we can talk to you and see where place needs to go, because there's place that could be for everybody and a place of our own. This particular program we've decided is a semester-long program specifically for women, but this is just one iteration. It could be many iterations, and it can have wings. So yeah, so thank you so much for your comments.
So Cynthia, can I add something? It's Elsie.
Sure, Elsie.
Yeah, to expand on what you're talking about, you know, I was telling my husband about this, and he goes, the same reaction as you had, like, where's the male version is open to men. But, you know, I think it would be nice if you could make it into some kind of bite-sized piece, because I think
absolutely.
I'm a psychotherapist by training, and I think talk therapy can only take you so far. And this is a much deeper level of insight, frankly, and healing. And when you say healing, you were talking about really deep healing. I mean, I could feel it in all of your stories. And, you know, I think that the whole message of self-acceptance and, you know, self-healing is just magical. And I don't, you know, verbal is not going to do it. I mean, I think that whole process you're going through is very cathartic, to lack of jargon, but, you know,
it is cathartic. Yes. Thank you so much, Elsie. That means so much coming from you, and I would love to pursue that. Chatting, Bronwyn.
Just thank you, Cynthia, for inviting me. You were very emotional.
inviting me to be present and part of this today. I was hoping to have been over in San Francisco in May, but that didn't happen. Just half a minute.
So Bronwyn is my soul collage trainer, and she's in Australia. So that's the cool thing about Zoom, is it's allowing us to have a complete widespread. So go ahead, Bronwyn, sorry.
And my heart goes out to the 7 artists that have presented so authentically today, and that sharing. I've spent the last couple of days at a reading retreat, where we've been delving into the European colonization of Australia. So it's really pertinent to be witnessing this today. And it's just been such a moving experience. And Cynthia, I really salute you for the energy of what you are doing. It's just an amazing program. And just to be able to share this, this morning, get up early and share this with you this morning, has just been an incredible journey. And yes, it does keep bubbling on. And there are things we all need to hear.
Thank you so much.
Just thank you. And thank you to everybody here today, especially the artists.
Thanks,
Bronwyn. It's so nice to put a real face to a name. We've heard about you for a while now, so it's a pleasure to meet you. And also to echo what Elsie was talking about earlier in terms of therapy and the traditional Western approach to healing, especially for women of color. I go to therapy, and I personally have benefited deeply from, going to therapy twice a week and all that jazz. But I will say that I felt very spiritually homeless until I came to Place in 2018. I fully integrated and absorbed deep, authentic healing, permanent, sustainable healing. So I think what Elsie spoke to earlier about how therapy can only go so far, it's true from my own personal experience. It moves at a very glacial pace, and that's not necessarily bad, but I know now that Place exists and what kind of real-time healing Place provides, and you guys were able to witness that today. So thank you for speaking to that, Elsie. That was really complimentary. Thank you. Yeah. Also, I just want to read a couple of beautiful comments that people left in the YouTube live stream. And I just want to, give a shout out to the people who were in the YouTube but weren't able to join us over Zoom. I'm seeing a message from, Tavi Baker. Tavi Baker says, bye, you're on your own. Culture is so accurate and painful. Thank you for naming that. I think that's a note for Janet. Tavi was really touched by your phrasing of, bye, you're on your own, because that is not a unique experience. If you are colonized, that is something that we all kind of universally understand. And Janet, without you speaking to it, without your artwork, we wouldn't know that, right? We wouldn't be able to name it. So Tavi says, thank you for that. Beautiful work, Janet. Good job.
And Tavi was a 2016 alumni with PAS from Boys and Girls Club. Yeah.
Yes. And there's so many. Okay. Susan Almazal, she says, Cynthia, you have launched another powerful group of women healers. Yes, that's you guys, you 7 artists, powerful healers. Thank you. Thank you, Susan, for saying that. Can you give us some context to who Susan is, Cynthia?
Yes, Susan is Tavi's mother. And Susan and Almazal and I and Cris go back through Asian American Women Artists Association a couple of decades, I think.
She is a fabulous artist.
Yes, she is.
Yes. Also, another name that I've heard many times from Cynthia, Sylvia LaFair says, beautiful. We all need to clear the past to free the present. Cynthia, you are doing great work. Keep it up.
So Sylvia wrote the book, Don't Bring It to Work. Oh my God, she's watching. I already started doing family pattern work just with my own grandmother and my mother. And then Sylvia in the corporate setting, luckily I work for a company that brought in this woman, and she taught us deeply how to work with the family patterns. She still teaches it. So you can always Google her, Sylvia LaFair, the way it sounds. She even wrote a book called Gutsy, and she's on Facebook. She's still teaching it. She worked with Merck, IBM, I think the Today Show, teaching people how to look at their family patterns. So thank you, Sylvia, if you're still watching.
So I see that Shar Suke, hello there. I see that you've politely raised your hand. Please go ahead.
They're girly, my relatives. My name is Shar Suki, and I'm a sister of my friend Janet, who now I can't see her picture because I messed with the camera. And this was, wow, extremely powerful and beautiful. And I'm so proud of you, Janet, and your art piece and your truth telling was amazing. And I'm so thankful to Ahran and Cynthia and everyone who's made this outlet possible for women, and especially for my sister Janet, who I support her healing all the time, and she supports mine. And it's been very emotional, and the only reason I had to go away during the break is because I've never been on Zoom this long at one time, and my right leg was starting to act up. Yeah, every single woman who shared and spoke. I love the diversity. I love the diversity that was brought here, all over the place, just like California, just like America, just like, it was awesome. And I could relate to a piece of something that everyone shared, and I was making notes about remind myself of that kind of statement, and going right away, right after the first one or the second one, going, oh my God, I think I want to do this. So, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All the 7 women today, wonderful. I got ADHD, and I thought, well, if you get bored, it's okay. You can get up and you can turn it off for a while. And it's like, no, I was gripped the entire time. It was wonderful to hear these truths, these honesties, these healing methods, and not methods, but methods that come from inside, intrinsically, and facilitated and inspired by the work of the women of place.
Thank you, Shar. Thank you.
For us to come. So, thank you, everybody. It's been a real honor to be here, and damn it.
Thank you for sharing that, Shar.
Thank you.
So I'm seeing a very interesting message in the Zoom chat. So I'm going to read it out loud for everybody.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, Shar. Don't be sorry. Thank you. Thank you for celebrating our Janet. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'm seeing, hi, I'm Samuel Elliott Hoshiko, he, him, his, and he's 11 years old, you guys. He's asking, I was wondering if any of the writers had advice with healing current stress. I will open that up to the artists. You guys should answer that. I think Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Samuel, for that beautiful question. So, any advice on healing current stress? What advice could you guys give to 11-year-old Samuel?
Before, rather than give advice, first off, I wanted to say hi, Sam, and I really appreciate that you're brave enough to ask these questions. I was hoping you would ask the question, Emily? Because you always have really good questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is that your nephew?
No, it's not my nephew, but it's my good friend's son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, since you asked for advice from writers and I'm a writer, I'll attempt to answer, but I think I would like to open it up to anybody to answer that question. I always think it's interesting to get different perspectives. Anyway, I would say if you consider yourself a writer, Sam, then whatever mode of expression you have at hand that's like most readily available to you, if it's writing, if it's making art, whatever it is. For me, if I'm feeling stress, I usually go to doing something that will not necessarily relieve the stress, but allow me to understand it more, allow me to just sit with it and explore it. So it might be through journaling, it might be sometimes actually as a writer, it's easier to do things that don't have anything to do with words first to access the feeling, whatever it is that you think is causing the stress. I know personally that you also are a wonderful artist, that you draw, that you make things, that you do all kinds of things. So I might just start there, just start exploring whatever it is that will make you get out of your head and into that flow of feeling joy of making something and discovering something. And maybe after that, you can write about it if you want to. That would be my answer for you.
I hope that helps, Sam. And thank you so much for supporting Emily today by showing up and bravely asking this question. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to be mindful.
I saw Anna raise her hands.
Thank you.
Oh, and Michael too.
Can you hear my microphone okay?
Yeah, you might want to speak up just a little bit.
Hey, honey, how are you? I wanted to say thank you, Reyna. I know her as Mylene, but Reyna, for inviting me to this gathering, and I'm blown away. And I want to give gratitude to all the artists who have expressed their journey in healing, and so super powerful because everybody has come from different directions and different ways that they're dealing with their ancestries and their what their journey is. And so I love the format of healing, you know, the chakras, and I think it's so much to this is my first time seeing all of this, and in the healing it is extremely powerful to see this because like the journey, like you said, the journey is not, or the healing is not easy. The kumbaya, it's not easy. It is extremely difficult. And that's why you're healing. There's an injury, there's a pain. It's real. It has to be acknowledged. And so thank you. Just gratitude to all of you on your journey and sharing this in this beautifully and profound way. I wish that there's, you know, much more healing all around, and this is definitely something to learn from because we are all going through something. And so just thank you. I just wanted to share my gratitude to the whole process and today. Thank you.
Thank you for showing up for our sister Reyna. It's a big deal that you guys showed up. Thank you.
And Michael had raised his hand.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I just want to follow up on the young person who asked a question. I just think place is a wonderful example of how reaching out to community and, you know, sharing your creative work and, you know, feeding on the creative work of others is a wonderful way of healing and of digging at what is important to you and how it relates to the world around you. So that's, you know, I just think that place is a wonderful example of doing that. And secondly, I just want to say kudos to everyone. That was wonderful. I enjoyed all of your work. It's particularly good to see the kind of evolution having been at the last gathering. So that's another thing that a lot of times people who aren't typically in the creative mood, they don't get a chance to see the evolution that goes on within the creative process. So that's another part of this that I really enjoy. Of course, I am biased to Paz, to my wife, Patricia. And again, you know, to see the evolution there, but it also, just one of the things you talked about is how important this is today in this environment. And that's something that Avacha talks about a lot as well, about how the process that we go through normally, even when there's not a pandemic, as artists, that experience, the processes that we are used to going through, is what society needs right now. We have experience that is invaluable in coping with this type of crises situation, and how to, you know, survive and sustain within it, but to come out of it as well. And one of the things that I love about what Pat did is one of my big influences as a poet is the poet Pablo Neruda, the Chilean poet. And I've always been amazed at how he could write so powerfully about the range of dictatorship to an ode to a pair. And, you know, the common things that are around us that are in our everyday life. I love the fact that the sheets are, you know, the sheets are on the line, and that it's moving in the air within the elements. And that's just all these things that are accessible to every one of us. But it takes that creative mind to be able to take that and transform it into something that's beautiful and that can also help you along the journey of healing. And that's what I really felt when I was watching that, is that it's a journey, and it's good to see where all of you have come to within the journeys that you're each on individually, but that you're also sharing and going through collectively, and then sharing it with the broader community. So great, keep it up. Good job, Pat. Good job.
You know, I wanted to give Michael a shout out too, because not only is he a published writer, he's actually pretty well known. Y'all might want to look at his name and follow him on social media. But he also, like, he just did a project where he was talking about memory and growing up in San Francisco's Bayview Hunters Point, and his partner interpreted into Mandarin at Chinese Culture Center. So he's combining the ethnicities, which I always am a proponent of growing up in San Francisco. And he's helped promote Asian American work. So he just is crossing all these lines. And I wanted to shout out for you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to clarify, that's Chung Yu, my creative partner.
Sorry.
We're a bilingual creative team, but thanks for referencing that. That was a significant collaboration at the Asian Art Museum. Thanks, Cynthia.
Can I actually contribute to answering the question about how to deal with the stress that was asked by, what's his name? What's the young
Samuel. Samuel.
This was, I think it pertains to every one of us to know how to actually deal with stress during this time. And there's just, if I could just start with, like, there's two factors that are actually that create stress. And that's about like what you can control and what you cannot control. Then the other one is what you know and what you don't know. Now, if everything around you is going out of control and you don't know what's going to happen, it's definitely going to cause so much anxiety and stress. And so if you could just do this kind of, this technique, because I mean, I teach meditation, so that's why I'd like to really make this contribution. It's like, just for this inhale and just for this exhale, you decide what you want to feel and you make that real. Just for this inhale, just for this exhale, and you keep repeating that. It's like, my mind is at peace. Just for this inhale, just for this exhale. Because your mind, which is so critical, and it's easy to get scared, or it gets to get discouraged. And if you say, oh, I don't know if I can feel for 5 minutes happy or being very peaceful, it's too challenging, so it actually shuts down. But if you actually say it's just for this inhale and just for this exhale, I feel peaceful, and you really feel that, you don't wait for situations to happen. That moment, you know that you can actually control that.
Thank you, Nestor. Oh, sorry.
Just try that out. Yeah.
Thank you, Nestor.
And
I want
just
to be
keep repeating
mindful
that until the momentum of that feeling actually becomes more real than what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nestor. Appreciate it. So I want to be mindful of your time. It's almost 3:40. We could probably go another 10 minutes, but or 5 minutes even. If anybody has anything pressing to say, I'd love to sit here and talk to you guys for another hour, but I don't want to do that to you. Norma, just keep it short, y'all. You're on
Yes,
mute.
I wanted to just only share something about the life, the stress, and everything we're learning from Place for Her. It's just the rock. We make the rock piedras. So I remember my first time when I went with Pat, that she was looking, and I ran away to her and I'm asking to her, what are you doing? And she said, I'm looking into some rock because it's an art something. And now once I wanted to get better and better, right? And I remember I pick up the big one. And I painted and I take, I think, more than 12 rock. But
you know, let me give context to what you're saying, Norma. Okay. So there's an exercise that you guys can do without us, and it's called beliefs that hold you back. And if you could just write down a list of beliefs that hold you back, like I'm not good enough, or I'm not thin enough, or whatever, you know, like I'll always fail at my job. And you pick up some rocks, and that's what Norma's talking about. You put the beliefs on the rocks and you carry them on your body. And you could try that too, Samuel. And at some point you decide, do I need to hold on to this belief or not? And I'm sorry to cut you off, Norma. But she picked up the biggest rocks because she didn't know what it was about. So tell them what happened.
Yeah, I'm get the big one, and because I'm trying to win. That's it. That's me. I wanted to get first. I don't care what the people say about me. I'm talking, I'm saying, that's it. Yeah, that's one of my chakra. I have to be in balance. That's why I chose my balance. So, and when Cynthia talked to us, you have to carry it for 1 week. It just present the hungry cows. Carry it all the time. Say, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to. So it was really, really helped me. Like, okay, I don't want to carry anything. Just I'm picking, and I chose whatever I needed, whatever really I needed. So that's just wanted to be in balance. That's what I chose, my balance. And the chakras. I'm living with the chakra all the time, with the stressful, with everything, like about my life, about my community, about my children's, like everybody. That's I'm always remember the rocks the chakras. That's I wanted to tell a little bit about like a little boy that he can learn from this one. It's just like no advice, but just life is life. So we need to keep it going, and just don't hug a lot of rock. Just pick up whatever you need it. Smaller, it's better.
Thank you, Norma. We'll filter it through Emily, the lesson. Thank you, Norma. Is there anybody else that has anything pressing before we close out?
My name is Phil Red Eagle. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Yes. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I'm up here in Tacoma, Washington.
Wow.
And Reyna asked me to take a look in. It's always good to see the healing process begin, and I'd like to remind people that it's a beginning, and we're going to go through layers and layers of healing, and the people who are being healed are going to become the leaders.
Yes.
And and it's usually the healers are the artists.
Yes.
And it's the artists that have to carry this healing with us as we go. I started many years ago with the canoe process, and I've been at it for almost 30 years now. And it's been healing me as we go, peeling away the layers that I need to get rid of. And it's really worked for me being an artist and being a healer. So your responsibilities are just beginning.
Thank you, Philip.
Good to see you, Reyna.
So thank you all for spending the afternoon with us. Our contact information is on some of the emails that went out. I'm happy to talk to anybody that has any kind of questions or suggestions or ideas to carry this project forward. Everything's grassroots. And we know that there's a higher power controlling it, or not controlling it, gifting it to us. So, and we're always in need of more help and more ideas. I just wanted to close by saying that I'm dedicating this to Diana Liu, who passed away kind of suddenly. She was a volunteer extraordinaire, and that's her partner, Ed. Ed's still around, but he is really having a hard time. So if you could send him your